Yeah, Xenhouse, yeah, Xenhouse, yeah. Level up, I'm pushing something major. Put the work and never take a pay cut. Better than I was yesterday. Woke up this morning getting paid.
It's the Xenhouse Podcast. This is season 2, episode 68. We back, fellas.
We back, baby.
We back.
here.
We never left.
That's it.
At the Xenhouse Podcast, we like to incorporate fitness, community, and culture and merge it with mind, body, and soul.
Okay.
It's your boy, the one and only Des Hines.
It's your boy, A. Joe.
And your boy Ross B.
All right, that wasn't a bad Ross
Yeah,
intro.
usually Ross does a smooth little Ross B. It wasn't too bad.
I wasn't light skinned. That was good.
Okay.
So today we got a special guest.
It's a real good one.
He's a writer. He's an author. He's a business owner. He's a president. He's a Stanford legend. He's a Stanford youth baseball legend coach people don't know about. The one and only Bob Robustelli.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Nice to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for
course,
coming,
man.
Bob.
Appreciate it.
So, Bob, Robustelli rings in Stanford, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I remember growing up, we're all from Stanford, born and raised.
Yep.
I've known the last name Robustelli without even knowing what it was tied to.
Sure.
It's just one of those names that you just hear of all the time. Can you explain to us the Robustelli name,
Sure.
what it means to you, and what it means to Stanford?
Sure. Robustelli, it's my dad, Andy Robustelli, definitely. He was in this community, lived in this community, was born here, went to Burdick High School at that time, went to Stanford High School. Didn't play football till his senior year. A lot of people don't know that. He went to World War II, came back, went to college, and then he started his career. As he grew in the area of sports, the area of football, he started with the Los Angeles Rams. Thank goodness he was traded to the Giants because it brought him back home, and it just opened up a whole bunch of things that he could do. He was a businessman. He was a family man. He was a man of faith. People in the community really got to know him when he was a New York Giant. After his playing years, he started a travel business in Stanford, became a very big travel company. We had offshoots. We had meeting events business. We had corporate travel, retail travel. We had shops. He had villas down in the Caribbean. I mean, he was all over the place. And the name became synonymous with, I think, a man who was homegrown, who made something of his life and was always a right person. He was humble. He did the right things all the time, and he helped everybody out. And that's what I think the Robustelli name became. Then the family.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bunch of us too.
Yeah,
It's a good amount.
I feel like it's about 1,000 of them.
There's a lot of them.
Right, we did a lot of things. You know, my brother Ricky was a great football player. Last cut of the San Diego Chargers in 1974, around there, 70. You know, we had high schools. We had people who were all state, all county. Yeah, not only the Robustellis, you know, the offshoots, the Salvators, the Ganinos. I mean, they're all the cousins. So everybody knew who we were, and none of us really got in any trouble. Right. You know, we kind of were above board, and people knew who we were. And then, you know, some of us did things. I mean, I coached. You said Little League. I coached Little League for almost 40 years. Then I went to Trinity Catholic as a athletic director for 4 years, and I'm now coaching flag football in Stanford, the 7 and 8 year olds.
Wow.
So
great.
I mean, the name is synonymous, I think, with just being good people.
Yeah. You guys are doing a lot in the community as well, so I think that continues, right, to almost like market your name.
Sure.
You know, and plus, like, you know, Des probably didn't know, but Alex and I went to school with Salvatore's and Robustelli's since we were
babies.
Like, you know, since we were babies.
Right.
So we always kind of knew the last name, and we always was like next to your house.
Sure.
All the time, every weekend we were partying after football games and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was always a great time. you know?
Yeah. So it's a good name, and I think we've kept it a good name too. I mean, promoting this book with the Robustelli name, it's been a lot easier than because I did the book before too. Yeah, and it's a lot easier with the Robustelli name.
So talk to us about the book. I read that you wrote the book.
Yep.
Right here. I read that you wrote it and you went to some publishers to get it published.
Yep.
They passed on it, so you decided to do it yourself. So talk to us about that process of not giving up and betting on yourself.
Sure.
Pretty much.
It's a book about my dad and our family, and the family it's called the Pope of the NFL, the Andy Robustelli story, and the family that loved him. It started after he passed. About a year later, I started researching. I went to a lot of his old friends, and I would sit down with them and have coffee at the 19th hole, Zodi's, and just start getting a lot of stuff from them. Right. Then I started reaching out to a lot of the ball players, Harry Carson, George Martin, the Maras, Frank Gifford, Sam Huff, and getting material. And I was just doing it, I think at that time, to write a little something that my family could have to give to their kids when they get older, who they know, so they would know who their great grandfather was. Right. And I started writing it and got the first draft done. And I gave it to my brothers and sisters, just as a goof, not as a goof, but here, look what I've done. Mm-hmm. And then I let it sit for a while, because I was writing other books. I'm coaching. I'm doing my business. I'm taking care of my family. There's a lot going on. But about 4 years ago, I looked at it and I said, I think this could be something. So what I did was I got in touch with this gentleman. His name's Peter Golenbach. Peter wrote with Sparky Lyle, The Bronx Zoo. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys remember that book. You're a little bit younger.
Heard of it. I don't remember. I heard of it. It's a big difference.
And it was a pretty. It told a lot of a lot of things going on with the Yankees. So Peter wrote that. I got to him and I sent him the draft because Peter's from Stanford also, and he knew the Robustelli. So I said, Peter, here, just read this. What do you think? He wrote back to me and he said, I love it. Will you let me edit it with you? So I said, sure. So we took probably about a year and a half editing it, putting it into the proper place, branding things. And Peter got it, and Peter sent it to me. And when he sent it to me, he said, here is the final version of your lovely story. I'm saying to myself, this is a guy who writes all the time, and he's not both BSing me, Mm-hmm. And so he said, I'm going to send it to my guy. He sent it to his literary agent. The literary agent sent it to about 6 or 7 publishers. 2 of them were starting to bite on it. Mm. But in the last phase, they dropped it because they didn't think it would work nationally. They knew regionally it would work. So one of them said, look, you just got to self-publish it. So that was like a year and a half ago. I sat on it, and I kept working. I had other people proofread it, and I got it into what I thought was the best shape I can get it into. And in January, I said I'm self-publishing it. And lo and behold, it's 100 years. Celebration of the Giants, which I had no idea. I wasn't paying attention.
It all happens for a reason.
Right. So what you said at the beginning is if you love something and you think something is right, you have to stay with it and follow it through. Right. No matter how freaking long it takes, because you inside you know it's right.
Absolutely.
And you keep going for it. So. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. And it was a labor of love. I mean, it's a lot of work. Yeah. But, everything's a lot of work. Right. If it's a lot of work, what the hell are you doing?
Hey, it depends what type of work you're trying to do. You can work to try to better yourself, or you're going to be working, trying to dig out of that hole. Yep. Which work you want to do.
Right.
I did have a question, though. So you said you met with a lot of his friends. And is there any stories that kind of stand out that you heard from them that you didn't know about him?
I think so. I just got to remember, these guys are all old Italians,
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to hear.
At the time, I'm at Zodi's in the coffee with 5 or 6 of them. I mean, they're 85, 86 years old, So you're laughing a lot with them. But yes, there were some stories that were pretty crazy. I mean, you never realized at that time. I mean, they lived in the West End. Okay, and it was the Italians and the blacks. I mean, that's what it was. That's who lived there. And there were all of these neighborhoods. And that's how they played. When they had baseball games, it was Stephen Street against Schuyler Avenue.
Yeah,
You know, or it was the Jersey Devils against whoever. And they played baseball at Sacred Heart. The parking lot where Sacred Heart is,
Yep.
the school used to be a factory. And they were all open.
Wow.
So Lefty Giuliani, who was one of the friends, was lefty. He had a short porch, because it went right into the factory. So it was some of that stuff. I never realized how much of a businessman he was at such an early age.
Right.
I mean, when he was 10 years old, that factory had these little metal balls that they just threw out. So they'd go pick them up, get bags, and they'd go sell them, for steel.
Yeah.
They did that. My father tried to sell
It's
ties.
all profit. Yeah, that's all profit.
That's all profit. So, I mean, one time I think they got caught. They were selling Christmas trees.
You trying to sell whatever.
Yeah, but it was after the lot closed. That wasn't theirs, And there was a lot. I mean, it was so much, but he was always moving forward.
Right.
Always moving forward. Never stopped.
So here at Xenhouse, we attack the mind, body, and soul. We're big on coaching kids and talking to them and really tapping into their mind. So few of us, I know there's one kid I trained. I asked him, like, what does your dad do for work? And he was like, I don't know. I'm like, when you go home tonight, I want you to ask your dad. So I talked to his mom a few weeks later, and she's like, yeah, it's weird. He asked my husband what he did for work, and I'm trying to figure out why, right? So he listened to me, he asked his dad, and then he came in and told me. So I preach, like, you need to talk to the people around you, learn from them, especially the older folks. How important is it for you when you tapped in with the older folks for your dad? How important is it for this younger generation to do that nowadays, to tap in with the people at Stanford and really learn from them?
I think you have to, no matter who you are, you have to have a lot of communication. I mean, kids today, especially through this pandemic period, they didn't communicate. Okay, first of all, they had those darn masks on. So they didn't see facial expressions. They didn't see smiles. They didn't see frowns. They didn't see anything. So there was a lack of communication there. I think people don't talk enough. I think adults even now don't talk enough. I mean, marriage. You don't talk in marriage, you got no shot.
It's not gonna make it.
You ain't going nowhere. And if you don't tell the truth in marriage or the truth in life, you ain't going nowhere, because if you lie, you can't remember all the lies you tell. Okay, lies.
We know a couple people.
There's a lot of people that do that.
Right? Lies just come back to bite you. So what I try to do, coaching. I mean, seriously, I've been coaching since I'm 71. I've been coaching since I was 28. I really never had a year off, because the years that I didn't coach a little league or kids, I was the AD at Stanford County. And I'm going to tell you about that job. That job, to me, I wish I knew about that job years ago, because it was family, faith, kids, and sports.
Right. Can't go wrong with that.
What else you want to do? I used to get there 6:30 in the morning, start for my dad, go to Mass at 7. All the kids would come in and we'd BS before school, and then they go and we'd go. And I was hard. I'm a discipline.
Right.
I'm a discipline. I discipline 7 and 8 year olds. I don't care.
Right.
Good.
We got to talk about that.
Because
A different segment.
Because I said, we had a game yesterday or Saturday. Yesterday, and I said to myself, do not yell as much as you always do. And I got there, and sure as hell,
First thing.
2 minutes into the game, I'm yelling, and I said, well, there you go, brother.
But that's who you are.
That's
your passion.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think nowadays some kids might take that as, oh, he doesn't like me. That's what we hear now, right? But like, to us, there's a passion, but we also understand, right, the different tones of yelling. It's like, to me, when my coaches used to be yelling at me, even when we were at Stanford High, like Coach Jones, it was just a different kind of, different kind of yelling. It was more of like a motivation.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I mean?
we understand it's not personal.
No.
Yep.
You have to be yourself with these kids.
Yep.
And
They could
I
tell.
always check with the parents. You know, if you think I'm yelling too much, let me know. And
Right.
you're fine. You're gonna yell more.
Yeah.
You know, yell more.
Because
So-
sometimes they might not do that at home, so they're
like
looking
that.
for
or
you to do
other
it.
people don't do it. You know, and you know, you want a segment you ain't on something. You have to redraft now in all these leagues,
Yeah.
so you don't get the continuity
Yeah.
of being with the same
people.
kids
Yep.
throughout. You know, and the kids don't get that because when you do that, you're getting different ways of coaching,
Right.
and you're not getting the continuity that you need as a team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all this is team. Look at the Mets. Okay, the Mets shouldn't have been where they were this year, but they came together as a team.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what it is. So yeah, it's important.
So let's tap into the discipline part. That's something that was instilled from an early age, and you because you mentioned that, so that means you hold it up there top tier with
No question.
everything. And we come from football background. We
That's-
already know
that's all of
what
us.
needs
Right.
to happen. So
Right. Well, see, that's what football is.
yeah,
Football's team and
It's
discipline.
not for everybody.
Yeah, right. It's team and discipline. You got to mean, you know, my dad when he came to the Giants, he was with Tom Landry was the defensive coordinator, and Tom Landry invented the 4-3. I mean, he's the one who made the 4-3. And my father and Tom used to talk all the time. And what the 4-3 defense was if you were a inside tackle, say Rosie Guerrero, and your guy went down, you went down because you were opening up Sam Huff to come into the hole.
Yep.
So you weren't making the play, but you were affecting the play. You were part of a team.
Yep.
You know, and that's the discipline. Discipline now, yes, me from a young age. My parents were disciplinarians. They were staunch Catholics, and you know they made us go to mass every Sunday. And when we were altar boys, if we were going to hockey, we'd have our hockey stuff underneath our cassettes.
go.
You know, but I'm not talking the shin guards and all that. We used to put big magazines, Life magazines, and that was our shin guards. Okay,
Yeah, different time.
different time. Yeah, we
Figure
didn't
it
have
out.
we didn't have gloves. You know, but the discipline came from that. The discipline came from my parents. Didn't hit us a lot. We got the wooden spoon every once in a while, but my father had a look, you know, that would just chill your soul.
Right.
You know, if you did something and he came home, he gave you you'd say, "Oh my God,
Yep.
oh my God." So that was the discipline we learned. Plus, you know, there was 9 kids, so we all had our jobs. We all had things to do.
Yeah.
You know, me and my sister Lori took care of the kids.
Right.
My mother was pregnant a lot. You know, she did have a housekeeper who helped every other day. But, you know, you did what you had to do as a family. Again, working as a team.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
She had 9 kids.
She had 9 kids. She was pregnant at 84 months. And that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
Yeah,
You think
that's a
about it
long
like that.
Yeah, think about. So where do you fall?
I'm 2, right where I belong.
You're 2.
Right where I belong.
So,
You know,
so your brother and then you.
Yeah, and
so you experience
I
another.
You seen it all.
more.
I took care of all of them because my brother Ricky, great guy, no question. But when he was growing up, he was his first one. And not that he was spoiled, you know, but he was a good athlete. He was football, this, that, and he was 3 years older than me. His job came in later in life when my father passed and we had to take care of the estate and the business. And Ricky took care of all of that. Then and did a fantastic job. My job as number 2 was to get in a little trouble for these kids to make it easier for them.
Oh yeah.
And to take care of them. You know, we used to play games. I mean, we used to have a game, puddle hunt, we called it. When it was raining, if it stopped raining, we'd all jump in the station wagon. The kids they were 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. I was 16. And we'd go try to find puddles.
And just jump
And
right
just take the car right through them, man. And they would yell and scream and laugh, you know.
Good times.
So we did things. You know,
Core
we did things
memories.
as kids. It was great memories. And that's all in that book. It's all in the book. So.
Do you think watching your dad be such a professional, do you think he ever took any of that home?
In what sense?
In regards to if he was frustrated at a game, he'll come home with it.
You know,
Or do you think he was able to differentiate?
yeah,
He did a great job with that.
Yeah, I think he was pretty good at differentiating. You know, he would leave in the morning my father's job was to make the sandwiches before we went to school. So, you know, we'd go to school at 8 o'clock. Then he'd go in to the stadium. Always drove in with Tom Landry, so they talked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He'd come home about 6:30. We'd eat with him. But then he'd go right into the back room and watch film. So we saw him, but we didn't see him a lot during those times. But I don't ever really remember him coming home frustrated and doing anything from football. You know what I mean? You know, you got to remember they were winners until '63 and '64.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem was in the 7 championship games that they had with the Giants, they only won one. 1956, they won when it was the first year he was with the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, the next 6 games they lost.
Huh.
You know, and it was tough, I'm sure. But he never brought him. The one that I think hurt him the most was the '58 game.
Really?
What they call the greatest game.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that hurt him the most. But again,
You never showed it.
no, I don't remember it. I don't remember it. Not a lot of controversy in it either. I don't ever remember him being negative against people. You know, maybe once or twice. You know, but nothing crazy.
Mhm.
He's human. Yep.
He was, he was not like that. So
That's great. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
So I read out of 175 regular season games, missed 1 game,
Yeah.
your dad.
Yeah.
Do you know the process of, was he before his time with taking care of his body, or like what was it? Or was it just,
I'll tell
the
you,
way he was built?
he was always in shape. I don't remember him really ever working out. I really don't.
That coffee.
Yeah, he did smoke. You know, when he did smoke, but when the Surgeon General came out in 56 or 7, and he said cigarettes are no good, he's put them away. Then never had them again. Didn't drink, ate right, slept good. You know, he might have done things that I didn't know in the off season.
Mhm.
You know, or when he went to the stadium in the morning. But he was 6'2", 235, which in this day and age, he couldn't play defensive end. You know, but the one thing he did do is in high school, when he was in class, he'd have tennis balls
Squeeze.
and he'd just squeeze them. His hair to here, that's what made him good. That, his quickness and his study made him good.
Mhm.
I mean, he was just like boom. You know what I'm saying?
Tunnel
But
vision.
not overly aggressive wise. I mean, he was a very, very calm man. He really was. But he had 9 kids. He had businesses. He played football.
Yeah.
You know, so you know he was focused, man. No question about it. And I think a lot of it was from him. In the late years, he had dementia. And in the late years, when it was my night to be with him and take him places, there was 2 things we did. We would go get ice cream, and we would go to Sacred Heart Church, because that's where he felt most at peace. And, you know, we'd pray, and we'd stay there, and then we'd go home, and then we'd try to get him to sleep. And it was tough. That disease is just,
It's ruthless.
Yeah.
it's ugly. It's so ugly. I mean, my mother passed from multiple mylosis, and that was ugly. But she was tough, and so was Andy, but she was tough on it. But the dementia just eats away at you because you don't know how to handle it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even when you read it, you know, about what to do and what not to do.
do,
You know, like
yeah.
never say goodbye, because
You really don't know.
yeah. And they still don't know what people with dementia think. They can't. So
That's tough.
yeah,
I feel like we're I'm 35, 36, 37.
36 plus.
I'm sorry. Your
Yeah, he
birthday's
try-
coming up.
He
It's
trying
coming
to
up.
he trying to make you feel
I'm
old.
gonna add no years.
not for nothing.
We're
But I
babies.
gotta tell you guys, I double you.
You've been coaching longer than we've been alive.
Yeah.
I double all of you except him. All right.
Yeah. So my mom and dad are in their 60s, 63 and 60. And I always take the time and think of Like I know all these versions of them. I've known them since my mom was 25, dad 27. I remember in the 90s when they were 30s. I remember the transition that they do and where they are now.
Right.
How was that seeing your dad from
Yes.
stud football player all the way up until...
We again, when he was playing football, we didn't see him a lot. After that, at work, when we were at Robustelli Corporate Services, we saw him a lot, and sometimes I didn't want to see him that much, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But he progressed very good until he was about maybe 65. And then one day we started seeing little things, little things happening. He was worried about, we used to have hanging vines in the back room at the office. He was worried about him. Fire, get those down. He was never like that before, so we did. And it progressed slowly, and then it starts. Once it really starts going, it's going. And his progression, he came home, I guess he was probably 70. He came home one day and he just drew the keys to my brother Chris and said, "There you go, put those away. I'm not driving anymore. I can't react when the other people make mistakes." Never drove again.
He knew it.
He knew, and he knew there were times when he would say to you, "I know there's something wrong. What is it?" And you'd sit there and you had no answer. My mother, on the other case, my father loved my mother more than anything. Okay? She progressed very good. I mean, I don't remember even looking at her progressions because she was always there cooking, cleaning, doing whatever she needed to do. She started to slow down. And then she started to, get pains in her back. And she started getting little cracks in her vertebrae. And it was multiple myeloma. And then we had to go through the progression of that. So, they had good lives. They passed 2 months apart.
Wow.
And it was a love story. I mean, I never, ever, ever heard them argue. Never, Jeannie was tough. Jeannie was tough. She's Czechoslovakian. We're half Italian, half Czech, which in those days was a very
tough combo.
Rare combo. Yeah, because, we were Italians. My dad was Italian. They were down here. Irish, everybody. That's what it was then. Blacks were down here, Italians were down here, everybody else was up here. And that's what it was. I mean, was it right? No, of course not. But that's what it was. So their progression, they lived till they were 85. God bless. I'll take 85.
Yep.
That's a long time.
It's time.
We got questions.
We got questions and we need answers.
Yeah.
So
ready?
we firing off some questions to you. You pick one or the other, and then you explain if you feel like you want to. All right.
I'll go again. Say that. How are we doing this?
So
you're going to ask
I'm
me
gonna
a
ask
question.
you a question.
Okay.
You answer this
Okay.
or that.
And then he's going to ask me a question.
Nope.
No,
We're just
it's
gonna
on
answer
me.
the questions.
I'm
You'll
here.
come right at me.
You don't have time to think.
Well,
you
let me
just
take
got
my
it.
seat then.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You have a one slot for a DN.
For what?
A DN. Defensive end.
Okay.
Linebacker. You got one slot.
Okay.
Who you picking, Lawrence Taylor or Michael Strahan? And why?
As a D end, Michael, because I would take Lawrence as the linebacker.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, if it was one or the other,
Yeah.
One or the
I
other.
thought I'd have to go with Lawrence.
LT.
He was. I mean, Strahan was great, but he was the please. I like
next
some of his lifestyle questions.
Yeah.
His lifestyle. But again, that's life.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what life was then.
But on that gridiron,
football,
different
But on
animal.
the football field, no.
LT.
Yeah.
All right, if you can go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Stay straight.
What do you mean?
Don't
by
do
that?
drugs. Don't
Okay,
do.
there you go.
In my lifetime, I did a few things that I probably shouldn't have done,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been sober 21 years.
Congrats, man.
And I wish that I had that 20, 25 years back.
Before that.
Prior.
Because no matter if it's drugs or alcohol, it wasn't crazy drugs, but it was alcohol. It was a lot of alcohol. You're not the same person. You don't do the right things.
Mhm.
But, I when I go to bed at night now, the two things I say to the Lord is, let me do the right thing. Let me make the right decision. And that's important. When you're alcoholed up, you don't make right decisions.
Right.
Yep.
What's the most important? So your business that you own, that you run with the family.
Yep.
I'm sure you do a lot of hiring and firing and stuff. What's the number one personality trait that you look for when you're hiring somebody?
It has to be loyalty. It has to be loyalty. I mean, when we were Robustelli Corporate Services, we had 100, maybe 100 employees. And those people to this day still get together and have some cocktails and hors d'oeuvres and talk about the life. It was a family. It was a family. That's loyalty.
That's how it's supposed to be.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Can you tell us, before you go, Des, can you tell us a little bit about what the business is?
What the Robustelli Corporate Services?
Yeah.
When my father left football in 1964, he started a company called National Professional Athletes. What it was taking football players, it was mostly football players, Roger Staubach, Rosie Brown, then he went into baseball with Mickey Mantle and all these guys, and he put them into marketing programs with companies. For instance, Roger Staubach was a big endorser of Emory Air Freight. At that time, was one of the first air freight carriers. Mickey Mantle was with Allied Chemical. So he put them in with this company, not as salespeople, but actually going out and making sales calls. And then he started, he was sending them all over. He bought a travel agency from Fugazi in New York. And Fugazi at that time was a big name in New York City, buses and all that stuff and travel. So he bought that. And then he bought that in, had to be 670, from 69, whatever. And he took that travel company and he made it into a $100 million company.
Wow.
And what we did was we took it, and it was just retail travel. He made it corporate travel for corporations. Then he went to events and meetings. Then we went to sports travel in the sense of taking 1,000 people to Super Bowls.
Right.
So that grew that way. And then there were other parts of sports marketing. For instance, we had a program with companies for years. It was cards we sent out to them by mail. You got to remember, this is a long time ago. It by mail with the games on it for the NFL. They picked the games, okay? It had to be postmarked by Friday night. We'd get them, we'd tally them, we'd watch the game, and then we'd give them prizes and things off of who won. But we used to send out 6,000 of them. Our return was like 98%.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was crazy until the NFL said, hey, you got to cut it down. Yeah, that was the precursor of what they're doing now.
Yeah,
legally,
basically.
you know? So we did a lot of things like that. We did a lot of travel. We used to bring companies all over the world. I mean, I traveled, from the time I was 21 to 55. I even still am. I don't do it as much. I traveled all over the world with people, bringing companies to
different games.
But not only that, bringing companies, who had meetings and events, who had company national sales meetings, national distributor meetings, 300, 400 people to Florida.
Right.
Then it was in Europe. Then China, we worked with the NBA and took charters over to China for them. So we did a lot of things. We did a lot of things, and that's where the business came. And then in 2008, before the crash, my father was smart enough to sell it. Now, everybody thinks we're millionaires, but they don't understand that there's 20 kids and 15 employees that got. We made a little bit, but it was timed perfectly. Yeah. Now I just run my own little business for meetings and events and that type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your biggest fear?
Rats. I really don't have, in life, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of, I'm not afraid of a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I have a great fear.
And when you say you're not afraid of a lot of things, is that faith driven?
Okay. And I think I'm happy where I am. I mean, I love my wife. She's a great girl. It's my second wife. She's a great girl. I mean, she keeps me straight. If it wasn't for her, I'd be dead. You know, 21 years sober. She said to me one night, boom.
You
stop.
better figure it out.
Yep.
And that was picking the right person to be with. My kids are all good. My grandkids are all good. Business is good. I'm paying bills. I do have faith. I mean, I really do have faith, and I think a lot of it is faith-driven. No question about it. No question about it. I mean, he is the man. I mean, I'm the Blessed Virgin. I love the Blessed Virgin. That's who I go to. Mm-hmm. I used to always go to my mother. So that's where it probably comes from. But I'm pretty comfortable where I am.
So when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as somebody who gave back to the community. I mean, you coach for 40 years. You're an AD for 5 or 4 years. And you're still coaching at 71. You're giving back. You care. You care about kids. Yeah. I mean, I see kids now who I'm coaching their kids.
Right.
Yep.
That's crazy.
We'll be there soon.
Yeah. I know.
We'll be there soon.
I'm laughing because, I think we've reached a point where now we're seeing kids that we coached back in the 10s.
Right, that are home.
That are now married.
Right.
And,
yep.
They're
having
probably
their
going to
first kid.
start a family.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're seeing them and you're like,
we're NFL football old.
Right.
We're not life old.
We're
you
not
know what I'm
life
saying?
old.
But you start feeling that way.
When you see these kids
Kids
grow,
get
that
married
little
and stuff.
babies,
Yeah, no
now
question.
they're starting a family. So
no question. And you guys trained some pretty good guys.
Yeah.
of
And
course.
it's a pretty good school. I mean, I looked at the
All over the
reason
place.
why I know who you were is I studied your faces and your name. No, I knew you. I knew you. I said, who does he look like? I said, I don't know, but I'm Joe Frazier. A little bit like Joe Frazier.
Little Frazier?
Little Frazier. Yeah, Little Frazier. And Ross, if I knew him and him, I knew you.
he knocked out George.
He knocked out George. Yep. I'll take it.
You did, but
Hey.
Hey, he was a good fighter.
Yeah, great fighter.
I was in college when those fights were going on. Man, we used to get kids in the room, and have a little party, and it was crazy, the fights. And then we were at UConn, so it was always Boston and New York at that time.
Yeah.
The Rangers and the Bruins were the Knicks and the Celtics. It was crazy time.
Yeah, always had a good time.
Always had a good time. Yeah.
found a way.
So that,
Have a blast.
It's things like that. I like tapping in with the older folks because you could get a sense of what you feel. Just talking to you, I can get a feel of what that feeling was like being around those times because we could only go on TV or YouTube and watch those old things.
So when you lived it, it's a
whole different
when you
thing.
get that.
And you live things and you go through things and again promoting the book a little bit. That's what that book is. That book is failings and love and faith.
Right.
And what I really think of how things went. I mean, my brothers and sisters might not agree with a few things. I don't know. But it was a good time. It was a good upbringing. We were lucky. We were lucky. I mean, God, I was at Fairfield University when they were in training camp, the Giants, for 6 years. I was from 5 to 11. We stayed there for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And you're with the football players. I mean, I remember Homer Jones?
Yeah.
Okay, Homer Jones used to return kicks for them. I used to sit with Homer Jones. We used to make models.
Right.
Homer Jones made models.
Right.
Okay? Rosa Greer was singing. Don Chandler was...
Different.
Those are names that people don't even understand.
Right, but who
It's
had
classics.
that? We had that.
Yep.
And it was just awesome. Being at the stadium for 1958 game. I mean, running to the 2-minute warning, running down to the locker room, who could get there first.
Yeah.
With all the giant kids. That stuff.
It is a great time. So I went to the university at Albany, and they used to have their preseason there. So every, before their preseason, we would set up everything, right? So we would set up the basketball courts, our locker rooms, everything.
Right.
And, you just remember, I remember kind of just like talking to these guys and saying, I want this to be me one day, and you see some of these guys and you're like, my goodness, how is this a human being? But once you have a conversation with them, they're the same.
Right.
They're the same as us.
They're the same
you know?
as us. No
They're
question
the
about
same
it.
as us.
And that's important because you got to remember, especially in this day and age, nobody's better than you.
Right.
You know, and everybody has the same chance, I think. And I don't know if I should say that because I'm not sure if everybody has the same chance. Huh?
Right.
Everyone's
No, we
got the
don't.
same 24 hours.
Everyone's
Right.
got the same
to
24.
do
something.
To do something.
Yep.
And
Right.
that's what we got to remember because we got to stop this stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of BS that's
There's
out
a
there.
lot of
Getting outside
BS
of that.
out there. That's right.
One question I have for you, we're all fathers, new fathers especially, and all our kids are under 5. What's something that your father instilled in you that you think, till this day, is just because your father taught you?
I think 2 things. I think faith. I think that's very important. And I think just being a nice person. You know, don't hurt anybody. You know, because you could hurt people with words. You could hurt people with fists. You could hurt people in a lot of different ways. Treat them like you want to be treated.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think everybody not simplify, but it should be simple. Okay, everything they make it too hard. Things are simple.
Yep.
I mean, you got 2 choices: right, wrong. Which way you going?
Yep.
You know, if you waddle in the middle for 20 years, you're going nowhere. Where you going?
Yep.
You know, so I think there's a lot of basic things that need to be done with young kids. Love them, hug them,
Right.
hug them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Discipline them. They're going to cry. Let them cry. They're going to hurt. Let them hurt a little bit. Don't let
Miranda,
them
you hear that?
Don't let them
cry.
Don't let them hurt too much. You know, but they got
let them hurt.
They got to get used to winning. They have to get used to losing. You know, again, this, you know, redrafting, everybody gets the trophy stuff. Yeah, okay.
We don't do that here.
Yeah, but you got to lose.
Right.
You got to
like it.
learn how to lose. But as importantly, you got to learn how to win.
Right.
Okay? One thing I hate more than anything is cocky people. You know, they win and they think they're something else because guess what? You're going to get beat right down someday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, and I hope I'm around to see it.
Everybody got a plan until they get hit. Mike Tyson.
That's right. That's what
Got
they
a
say.
plan until you get hit.
Yeah, that's right.
Hit in the mouth.
Imagine.
Yep.
Crazy.
That's awesome.
Well, we thank you for coming. Remember
Appreciate
to
it.
also, guys, the Pope of the NFL. Make sure you tap in
Make sure you
Show
check
that
it out.
book.
and you,
Exactly.
and you
Alright.
read it and you learn, especially if
this
you're in
copy.
this area, in the Stanford area.
Oh, you did sign.
Oh, we got that signed
Thank
copy.
you. Signed copy, all right?
Bob, we appreciate you
Guys,
coming. We
guys.
appreciate you taking the time, coming and sharing some of your knowledge about your dad and your family and what you do
And a
for
little bit of
Stanford.
life.
We
A little bit of
appreciate
life.
you.
That's
History.
Well,
Yes, sir.
please, guys,
Stanford history right
Yes,
here.
sir.
I appreciate you having me, and thank you very much, really.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We're good?
That was good.
Not your first rodeo.
No, I've done
I
it.
got it.
I've done it.
Xenhouse, yeah.